Alexei and Irina never expected their son to change so much. If someone had told them a year earlier that their quiet, stubborn, easily irritated son would return home talking about kindness, patience, community, and tropical warmth, they would have laughed, shrugged, or simply dismissed the idea as impossible. Their son Nikolai had always been a good young man, but he had a certain heaviness in his spirit, something that had started in the winter after he finished university. He was smart, capable, talented, yet always exhausted, always tired, always complaining about how life feels stuck. They tried everything to help him: long talks, weekend retreats, even small family vacations. Nothing worked. The weight on his shoulders was something he couldn't shake off. And then one day, he told them he wanted to leave Russia for a while. Not forever, just enough time to breathe. The world had felt narrow to him, cold not just in weather, but in routine. He felt like he needed a place far from his familiar environment. That was the first time the Philippines entered their household conversation. Irina remembered blinking at the name. The Philippines? Why the Philippines of all places? She had asked. Nikolai had shrugged, half excited and half anxious. Warm weather, friendly people, English-speaking country. I saw some videos, and I just feel like I need a place like that. At first, they disagreed. It was too far, too unfamiliar, too different. But the way Nikolai looked at them during that conversation told them something deeper was going on. He wasn't running away from home. He was running toward himself, toward someone he wanted to become. They eventually gave their blessing, even if it scared them. And so, with 2 suitcases and a heart full of confusion, hope, and loneliness, their son left Russia for the first time in his life. What they didn't know was that he wouldn't come back as the same person. Months passed quietly. Their communication remained regular, but something had changed in the tone of their calls. His voice was lighter, calmer, sometimes even cheerful. In the early weeks, they could hear roosters crowing in the background, people laughing, tricycle engines buzzing like insects, and karaoke music blasting even at noon. He would mention small things: new friends, new discoveries, new habits. He learned to say "Salamat po." He learned that Filipinos smile at strangers for no reason. He learned that even the poorest households offer food to visitors. He learned how to eat rice 3 times a day, sometimes even 4. He learned to ride jeepneys. He learned to make fun of himself, something he had never been comfortable doing in Russia. He learned that life didn't have to be heavy all the time. But this was all just surface-level noise. What they truly discovered later, when he finally returned home, was that the Philippines had changed his spirit. Irina noticed it the moment he walked into the arrivals hall of the airport. There he was, tanned like he had lived under the sun for years, wearing a loose shirt, carrying beat-up suitcases, and smiling, really smiling. Not the forced, polite smile he usually wore, but a wide, open, glowing smile that showed something had softened inside him. She ran to him first, hugging him so tightly she could barely breathe. "My son!" She didn't care about the crowd. She didn't care about the tears running down her face. What shocked her wasn't his appearance. It was the warmth that came from him, the way he hugged her back as if he had grown a bigger heart. "Ma," he whispered, "I missed you." Irina froze. He had never called her Ma before, not in Russian, not in English, not in any language. He always said Mama or Mom, but Ma, that was Filipino. And before she could comment, he kissed her on the cheek and did something even more shocking. He took her hand and pressed it to his forehead. "Manopo," he said. The entire airport seemed to pause. Irina looked at him with wide eyes. "Nikolai, what was that?" He laughed softly. "A Filipino tradition, a sign of respect to elders." Alexei, who had been standing behind, nodded slowly, trying not to cry. Because at that moment, he realized something they had prayed for but never expected. Someone had given their son back to them, but better. As they drove home through the cold Russian streets, they watched their son looking out the window as if seeing everything for the first time. Snow fell lightly, covering rooftops in thick white silence. But even in this quiet landscape, their son carried a small piece of the tropics inside him. He hummed to himself, another thing he never used to do. Random English words slipped from his mouth. He tapped his fingers like someone who had gotten used to hearing music every hour of the day. He even commented softly, "I miss the sound of tricycles already." When they entered the house, their son removed his shoes and placed them neatly by the door, another small but noticeable change. "You never did that before," Alexei said. "We do it in some Filipino homes," Nikolai replied. "It feels respectful." They sat down for dinner, and Irina placed a bowl of borscht in front of him. Instead of eating immediately, he looked at them and said words they had never heard from him at a dinner table. "Kain tayo," he said naturally before correcting himself. "I mean, let's eat." Irina and Alexei looked at each other, amazed, amused, and deeply touched. Throughout the meal, they expected him to tell stories of beaches, mountains, food, and fun adventures. And he did. But that wasn't the part that shocked them. What shocked them was the way he spoke. Softer, kinder, more patient, more grateful. He talked about people more than places. "You know what's crazy?" he said. "Filipinos give even when they have nothing, and they never complain." They noticed how often he said, "Thank you," even for small things. Water, bread, napkins. It felt like he had learned to appreciate simple moments more than ever before. After dinner, he stood up to wash the dishes. Irina almost fainted. You're washing dishes?" she asked. "In the Philippines," he replied, laughing, "we help each other always. My friend's mother told me, we all eat, we all clean." It stuck in my head. Later that night, when he went upstairs to unpack, Irina sat beside her husband in the living room. "He's different," she whispered. "Yes," Alexei replied, "but different in a good way." They weren't wrong. Over the next few days, the changes became even clearer. He woke up earlier, often humming in the kitchen as he made coffee. He used to wake up late with complaints of headaches or lack of energy. Now he seemed to enjoy mornings. He talked to neighbors more openly. He smiled at children playing outside. He even learned to carry groceries for elderly neighbors, something he never thought to do before. He cooked sinigang one evening using ingredients he found at an Asian store in Moscow. The whole house smelled sour, warm, and oddly comforting. "My Filipino friends cooked this for me during a rainy day," he told his parents. "It made me feel at home." When he ate, he grabbed a spoon and fork. Not the Russian way, the Filipino way. But the biggest change wasn't his habits. It was the new kindness in his voice, the new purpose in his eyes. One afternoon, Alexei asked him, "Son, did something special happen there?" He paused, looking out the window. Snowflakes drifted like slow-motion feathers. "Yes," he said quietly. "Everything happened there. The Philippines didn't change my life overnight. It changed me little by little. Every smile, every meal shared with strangers, every time someone helped me without expecting anything. It made me want to become a better person." He told them about the family he stayed with, the Manalos, a simple family in a small town. They treated him not as a guest, but as their own son. The father taught him how to repair a roof. The mother taught him how to cook Filipino dishes. Their grandmother taught him mano po. Their little daughter painted his nails one afternoon, just for fun. Their son taught him how to play basketball in slippers. He laughed as he recalled these memories. His parents listened with soft smiles, realizing someone had given their son something that they never could, a new perspective on life. "The Philippines healed me," he whispered. Not in one big moment, but through everyday kindness. His voice cracked a little, and Irina felt her heart swell. She never imagined a country so far away, so different, could touch her son so deeply. She always thought healing came from doctors, therapists, or life achievements. But sometimes, healing comes from sunsets, sea breeze, shared meals, loud laughter, community events, and unexpected friendships. A few weeks passed, and they realized Nikolai had brought the Philippines into their home too. He greeted them every morning with, "Good morning, Po." He hugged them randomly. He started saying, "I love you," more frequently, a phrase rarely spoken in Russian households. He invited neighbors for small dinners, something unusual in their quiet community. He played Filipino music, especially acoustic guitar songs that made the house feel warmer. He started planning future goals, something he had stopped doing for a long time. He even convinced his parents to try Halo Halo. But the biggest surprise came one night during dinner, when he said something that brought tears to his parents' eyes. "You know," he began softly, "I realized something in the Philippines. We don't choose where we are born, but we can choose who we become. And I finally like the person I'm becoming." Irina reached across the table, holding his hand tightly. "The Philippines gave us back our son," she whispered. "A happier one." Nikolai smiled, looking down modestly. "The Philippines didn't just change me, it taught me to change myself." Outside the window, snow continued to fall quietly. Russia remained cold, but inside their house, a warm glow lingered. Something subtle, something beautiful, something undeniably Filipino. Winter was still thick in the streets of Moscow when Nikolai made a quiet decision that would eventually surprise his parents even more than his first transformation. Ever since returning from the Philippines, he had been living differently, gentler, calmer, happier. But he felt something missing. He missed the warmth in the air, the constant noise of life, the laughter that floated through open windows, the feeling that each day was a small festival. He missed the Manalo family. He missed jeepney horns, the smell of grilled isaw, the sound of children playing basketball barefoot. But more than missing the country, he felt a tug inside him, like he had left something unfinished. Irina sensed something in him too. He often stared out the window at the snow, but he didn't look sad. He looked thoughtful, contemplative, as if his heart was somewhere 10,000 kilometers away. One morning, when frost covered the glass and the heater hummed, Irina found him in the kitchen preparing breakfast: sunny side-up eggs, toasted bread, and a small side of tomatoes. "Filipino breakfast," he said, smiling. He looked comfortable doing it, moving with a natural rhythm he didn't have before. She sat across from him, watching him eat with a smile. "Something is on your mind, Nick." He paused mid-bite. "Is it that obvious?" "A mother always knows." He laughed softly, then took a deep breath as if preparing for something important. "Ma, I want to go back." Irina felt her heart tighten, not out of worry, but out of the sudden realization that the Philippines wasn't just a place he visited. It had become part of him. "Go back. To visit?" she asked carefully. "To live for a while," he answered honestly. "Not forever, but long enough to build something meaningful." She blinked. "Meaningful? Like what?" He looked down at his hands. "I want to help the Manalo family, and maybe help the community too." He talked about how the Manalos ran a small sari-sari store that struggled during the pandemic. They dreamed of expanding it, of making it into a small cafe. He talked about how he wanted to teach English to children in the barangay, how he wanted to volunteer in coastal cleanups, how he wanted to learn their language more deeply. For the first time in years, he had goals, real, heartfelt goals. Not because someone expected them, but because he wanted them. Irina felt tears prick her eyes, but she hid them, pretending to sip her coffee. "You've grown," she said quietly. Alexei entered the kitchen moments later, and Nikolai told him too. His father listened silently, nodding slowly. "If this is what gives you purpose," he said finally, "then we support you." Nikolai smiled with deep gratitude. "Thank you, Pa." But what his parents didn't expect was that the Philippines would change them too. Before Nikolai returned to the Philippines, he wanted his parents to experience the warmth he had been talking about for months. He convinced them to join him for a short visit, not just as tourists, but as family members visiting his second home. After days of hesitation, they finally agreed. When they arrived in Cebu, the same city that had welcomed their son months before, his parents were struck immediately not by the heat, but by the atmosphere. Even airport staff greeted them cheerfully. "Welcome, Po!" The smile seemed natural, not forced. Taxi drivers joked with them. Children waved excitedly as their car passed. It felt strange for them to be treated so warmly by strangers. But the real surprise began the moment they reached the Manalo house. The entire family, Tatay Rodel, Nanay Grace, Lola Bebe, young Kiko, and little Marites, stood outside, waiting for them. The moment Alexei and Irina stepped out of the taxi, The Filipinos rushed toward them with open arms, as if greeting long-lost relatives. "Welcome po," they said in unison. Tatay Rodel grabbed Alexei's hand with a firm, friendly grip. "Sir Alexei, thank you for raising a good son. He is family to us." Nanay Grace hugged Irina gently, as if hugging a sister. "You are very welcome in our home," she said softly. "Your son is like my own son." Irina wanted to cry right there, not because she was sad, but because she finally understood. She finally saw for herself the warmth that had changed her son. Little Marites tugged at Irina's sleeve. "Mama Irina?" she asked shyly. Irina smiled. "Yes?" The little girl giggled and placed Irina's hand on her forehead. "Mano po." Irina froze. It was the same gesture her son had done at the airport, the one she didn't fully understand. But now, watching a small child show her such respect and affection, something inside her melted. For days, they stayed with the Manalo family, experiencing firsthand the simplicity and fullness of Filipino life. They ate meals together: adobo, tinola, sinigang, pancit. They attended a barangay fiesta, where Alexei was dragged into a dance competition he horribly failed, but made everyone laugh. Irina helped Nanay Grace cook for 20 people, even though she was preparing for only 5. She discovered that Filipinos never calculate food portions. They cook with the assumption that unexpected guests will always arrive. One evening, while walking along the beach, Irina told her son, "Now I understand why you changed. This place, these people, they live with lightness." Nikolai nodded. "They taught me how to breathe." His parents experienced more than culture. They experienced a transformation. Alexei, who was always serious, laughed more during that trip than in the last 10 years combined. Irina, who constantly worried, found herself relaxing, sitting by the sea for hours just listening to the waves. She started collecting shells with marites. She started saying po and opo. She even learned to ride a tricycle. But the real breakthrough came from something small. One stormy night, the electricity went out in the entire barangay. Russia could handle heavy snowstorms, but their systems rarely failed. Here, despite the heavy rain, life went on calmly. The Manalos lit candles. They gathered in the living room. Kiko played guitar. Everyone sang. Tagalog songs, English songs, even Russian songs Nikolai taught them. Irina sat in the dim light, surrounded by people who were not blood-related, but felt like family. She realized something important. When life loses electricity, Filipinos turn on the warmth inside them. They don't panic. They don't complain. They connect. And she understood why her son returned with a gentler heart. On their last morning, something unexpected happened. The barangay captain visited their house carrying a certificate. "Ma'am Irina, Sir Alexei," he said shyly, "we want to thank you for raising Nikolai. He helped our barangay a lot. He taught English to our kids, helped with donations, cleaned the shoreline. He even helped repair roofs after the storm." The room filled with soft applause. Irina held her breath. She couldn't believe the depth of her son's impact. "Your son," the captain continued, "brought kindness here, but we believe this place gave him something too." Irina couldn't hold her tears anymore. She hugged her son tightly, something she hadn't done in years with so much emotion. "You did this," she whispered. "You found yourself here." But she didn't expect what came next. On their last night, the Manalos prepared a small farewell dinner. After eating, Tatay Rodel stood up and said, "Sir Alexei, Ma'am Irina, before you leave, we have something to ask. Permission." They exchanged confused glances. "We want to adopt your son," Tatay joked loudly. The whole room burst into laughter, but the sentiment behind the joke was real. They considered him family. That night, before sleeping, Irina whispered to her husband, "Our son didn't just find a home, he gained a second family." When they flew back to Russia, Irina and Alexei weren't the same either. They greeted their driver with smiles. They packed small pasalubong gifts for neighbors. They hugged their relatives more. They cooked adobo one night just for fun. They turned on Filipino music occasionally. Their home became slightly noisier, slightly warmer, slightly brighter. And when Nikolai finally prepared for his second journey back to the Philippines, Irina didn't cry from fear this time. She cried from pride. She helped him pack dried fish, instant pancit canton, polvoron, and an entire suitcase of Filipino snacks he wanted to bring as gifts for friends. She folded his clothes and whispered, "Bring warmth to them like they brought warmth to you." Alexei placed a small envelope in his son's hand. Inside was a handwritten note. "We love who you have become." When Nikolai left again, the airport goodbye was no longer painful. It was meaningful. His parents knew he wasn't escaping Russia. He was expanding his world. They knew he would return again, but each time, he would return even better. Months passed, and something else changed too. Irina started messaging the Manalo family frequently. She learned Tagalog phrases. She laughed at their voice messages. Alexei started watching Filipino travel vlogs. He tried to learn how to play the guitar like Kiko. Their home became an extension of two cultures blending beautifully. One day, months later, Nikolai video called them from the Philippines with a quiet smile. "Ma, Pa," he said, "I want you to meet someone." He turned the camera and a Filipino woman waved shyly. Her name was Liana. She was a teacher at the local school, kind, gentle, with eyes that sparkled with sincerity. She had been helping Nikolai with his volunteer classes. Irina's heart warmed instantly, not because she thought about romance, but because she saw someone who mirrored the warmth that had changed her son. And so the story continued, not with an ending, but with a beginning. The transformation of their son had started with a journey. But the transformation of their entire family came from what he brought back: patience, gratitude, laughter, interconnectedness, and the realization that love is not limited by borders. A Russian family and a Filipino family intertwined by kindness, respect, and shared stories. And through this, they learned the greatest lesson the Philippines had given their son. Home is not a place. Home is a feeling. And you can find it, sometimes unexpectedly, on a warm island across the sea.